Hey everybody, welcome back to Two Dudes Talking Motorcycles. My name is Mitch.
And my name is Gleb.
Welcome back again. We got another episode ready to go for you. But first, you can follow us on Instagram at TDT Motorcycles. We also have our YouTube channel, TDT Motorcycles. If you want to send us pictures of your bikes, because we are now in the winter season. So if you want to make us jealous, you can reach out to us at tdtmotorcycles@gmail.com.
Yep. And you can also follow me personally on Instagram at Gleb Lapham.
Yeah. Oh, and I am also on there at Meets to the Beach.
But yeah, welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. We have our main topic is going to be today about kind of motorcycling on not a budget.
We've done that.
Yeah, we've done that one before. Motorcycle or managing your.
Are you busy?
Are you busy?
Do you have not a lot of time?
Do you have other hobbies than motorcycling? Because sometimes we just don't have enough time to always ride our motorcycle.
Exactly.
And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I think both of us forgot the actual name of the topic.
Motorcycling on a tight schedule.
That one right there.
I was trying to help you along the way there.
Motorcycling on a tight schedule. That's going to be our main topic for today. But before we jump into the main topic, we do have some news for you. And for the news, we're going to start off with the Panigale V2 and Street Fighter V2. Those were announced back at the beginning of November, and they're pretty much all brand new bikes. There's a brand new engine for both of them. It's a V2. It's a rotated 90 degrees. So it's just like 90-degree rotated engine with variable valve timing. And it comes in at 890cc, pumping out 120 horsepower and 69 nice pound-feet of torque. The engine only weighs 120 pounds, the engine itself, which makes it the lightest twin engine ever produced by Ducati. And 70% of that torque is available at 3,000 RPM. So you get a lot of headroom to play around with this thing. And I forgot to jolt down the prices, but I believe they were around 15,000 to 18,000.
I think
US dollars.
When I was looking at it, if I remember right, I think the MSRP on Ducati's website for just the V2 was 16.
Yeah.
But then the V2S was like 18.
Yeah,
something like that.
So there's two variants of the Panigale, at least the V2 and the V2S, and I think for the Street Fighter as well.
Is there a Street Fighter S?
I don't think so. I think it's just a Panigale.
Okay.
I'll have to double check that.
Yeah.
But so it's pretty much got your standard suite of electronics. It comes in, let me tell you the weight first. It comes in at 385 pounds for the Street Fighter, and the Panigale is at 388. So a little bit heavier because of all the fairings and stuff. But those are very light bikes.
Yeah, that's
with 120 horsepower on them. And they pretty much have the standard suite of electronics on them. They got the quick shifter, they got coordinating ABS, adjustable traction control, which I love the fact that Ducati does that. It lets you kind of fine tune the level that you're comfortable with versus what they think you should have for specific modes. It's got wheelie control, engine brake control. So a lot of those riding modes, they can be modified by the user. And then I think it keeps the settings as well. So it doesn't change when you turn the bike off. So you have to redo it. It does have 4 riding modes between race, sport, road, and wet. And like I said, all of them can be modified by the user.
Yeah, so we've ridden the V4S on multiple times. Well, not multiple,
once.
Just once. Yeah. But we've got the V4S Panigale, and there's the V4S for the Multistrada.
Yeah.
But it seems like for a sport bike, after riding the V4, I could see how the V2 is more approachable and day to day.
I would, unless I'm planning on really going balls out on the track, I think the V2 is probably I don't know. I feel like it's a much better just option.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Street Fighter or the Panigale.
We still need to ride a Street Fighter.
We do need to ride a Street Fighter. But I think it's honestly I feel like it's the better money spent.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing with the Triumph Street Triple or Speed Triple.
Yeah.
1200.
It's just a really big bike for a public road.
Yeah. You'll never use that bike to its full potential on a city street or even on the mountain twisties. and like unless you take it to a track, there's probably no place that you can safely and of course legally put it to its full potential on like a public road. Maybe like a few exceptions here and there, but very rarely.
Yeah.
So I think I'm a fan of these kind of smaller displacements, super sport or sports bikes, because
Yeah.
I feel like you can do a lot more with them on more roads versus something as big as like the Pentagon or as powerful as the Panigale V4.
Yeah. Well, like when we were riding it, the V4S, it's just, it was really fun. It was really cool. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, but like for the price point and like just a public road, like I said before, just a public road. And even with how much fun we had on the V4, like, we were pushing our comfort zones, trying 100%. It out, but with it. But then like that bike wasn't even trying.
It wasn't even trying. Like that bike is begging you to go faster. It's like, please do something. This is nothing. Yeah. And it feels like a little choppy at slow speeds. Even.
It can,
slow engine speeds. So
it's just, it's a bike that rewards like aggressive.
Yeah.
So I think a V2 would be like,
I would love to try it a V2 to see how it feels, because I'm sure it still feels.
Oh yeah, and that's
pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is like those, like the V4 is just so, like powerful.
They're very powerful bikes.
Like it just seems like with the V2, that's going to be more than enough.
Oh,
like
100%
for a street, especially for riders like us.
Yeah, So, so there's the V2 and then the V2S models. There's not too many of the differences between them. The non-S variant comes with, so I'll backtrack. The S variant comes with Öhlins suspension. So it's beefier, stronger, and like better suspension, more sportier suspension, both front and back.
Yeah.
However, and it also comes with a lithium battery versus a lead acid battery and a few other extras. The non-S comes with Showa suspension in the front and Sachs suspension in the rear, and also comes with a lead acid battery versus a lithium. But there's not too many differences between the two. I feel like you might as well just bump it up to the S.
Just grab the
for
S.
a couple of grand more. Both of them do come with Brembo brakes, front and back, and then a 5-inch TFT screen and a 16:9 ratio, which they made a mention of in the press release, and I'm like, I don't know why. For those of you that are not familiar, 16:9 ratio is your standard like widescreen TV ratio.
So it's like if we're giving you a standard screen.
It's basically the iPhone.
Yeah.
16:9, but on the TFT. I don't know why they made a point of mentioning that specifically, but I just thought it was a funny little detail. But yeah, that's the
sounds like Apple when they put on the USB-C. It's like, we've revolutionized this.
Wait till we get to our bike a little later down, and we'll tell you what kind of screen it has on the front of it. But yeah, and then for the next bike we have the
so this bike's not going to be as shiny and fancy as the Ducati.
It's the exact opposite of shiny and fancy.
Yep. It's the new Suzuki DRZ 400S and SM for 2025. First time in 23 years that this bike's getting like an overhaul besides like graphics.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
So what's new for 2025 is there's actually a new 398cc motor, single cylinder. I believe it was a 4-valve on there, and then they've also redesigned the like the shape of the piston head.
Okay.
So they're claiming it's gonna help like with maintenance, like just the bike's gonna be able to live longer.
Yeah.
With that. So electronically fuel injected. Part of that rider mode stuff, which is coming. So yeah.
The previous one was carbureted, right?
I mean, obviously they would have been, but like I actually, I'll be honest, I forgot to go look to see if like the older ones were carbureted or injected or not.
Because I remember there was a Suzuki, I think it was a DRZ 400, or maybe it was a DRZ. There's one of the DRZs that was
still fuel
or carbureted. Yeah.
Or carbureted. Yeah. No, it's So if it is still carbureted, that's a really nice improvement.
Yeah.
Or if it's or if it's still carbureted now that it's fuel injected, so that's going to be a nice improvement on there as well. There is a LED screen or LCD screen, new LED lighting. Part of the new motors, they've also redesigned like the air intake, just to give it like a better mixture on there. And then, so you get rider modes through their new like computer system. They're calling it SIRS.
So I'll correct you here real quick. I pulled up the Adventure Rider article on it. So it's not the DRZ 400 anymore. It's the DRZ 4.
DRZ 4. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yep. DRZ 4S and then SM.
Yep.
Those are the two. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Okay. Yeah. Good catch. So the new title is the DRZ 4. There's the S and the SM.
Yeah.
The S is going to be your more dual sport focused bike, and the SM is going to be like a supermoto type. From what I'm reading on it. So it's got like the street tires. I'm pretty sure that's what I caught onto it for.
Yeah, the SM is the supermoto.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, but, so if you want a supermoto, if you want a sumo bike, you can just go buy one and not have to customize it.
It's kind of crazy seeing like something so old get like a big refresh like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when the KLR finally got a little bit of a refresh, even though it's still like
it's still a
650cc thumper in there. But I think it's. I mean, I saw like looking on the pictures, these two bikes look pretty dope.
They actually do look pretty decent.
Would not mind having one to hit some like single tracks here and there and
like,
stuff.
It still looks like a dual sport,
mm-hmm.
but it looks modern, like a modern dual sport. It almost like kind of looks like a Husqvarna, like with like the front light on there, like one of their dual sports. But
I agree.
I think that's cool. I was actually happy to see there's like because I feel like most dual sports now it's just like, it's a 2024, but it's the same model we've been using.
It's the same thing. It's just new color palette.
Yep.
Yeah. I would love to have a small displacement dual sport in the future, just for either one practicing like off-road riding, but also hitting some rides or trails where I would not probably want to take my my giant ass Tiger 900 on.
Yeah.
But I doubt I'll ever buy like a new dual sport. I'll probably just buy like a used one for $2,000.
Yeah.
And call it good.
Well, and I mean that's my thing with off-roading, right? Is like I really love the way my bike looks. it's a pretty bike.
Yeah.
Plus it's heavy. So I think if I could get my hands on like a nice little dual sport, that's not going to require a ton of maintenance. I would love that.
Yeah.
Personally,
I wouldn't mind one of those used ones, but it'll be a while before I do that because I bought a new car this week or last week. So that's my money right there.
Yeah, you're not buying another bike for a minute.
Nope, not for a while.
But last thing I had on this bike too was that where was it? Oh yeah, so before you corrected me on that, it has adjustable and switchable ABS and traction control now too. So they have like for their traction control, they have like it's called G mode, and so it's like a gravel. So it's like a half and half, like kind of how my off-road mode has like it'll give some inputs here and there,
but it'll still save you in case you get a little too rowdy.
Yeah, and then they just have it like an off feature for your truly off-road,
which makes sense in the dual sport. I feel like.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming you have switchable ABS as well.
Yep.
What are the 3 riding modes?
I forgot, but there are. Yeah, I was reading up on them, and it's going to change out the power like any riding mode system will do for you.
Okay,
but
I was just
I couldn't remember if they even mentioned
specifically or not.
I actually don't think they did.
Okay.
Because I was like, rider modes, and I just kind of got off track. So yeah.
But yeah, so 2 little updates to a very old chassis, which is kind of nice to see.
I think it's a new chassis too.
So pretty much everything's new.
redesigned trim frame. Yeah. So it's based on the old one, but it's newer. So
It's like the Tacoma
yeah.
of motorcycles.
Same, but different.
Same, but different.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it actually does have like quite a few like little changes here and there to it. I think the rake on it is different as well.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I was happy to see that we're getting like a new dual sport. Price is to be determined still. I hope it's not a lot. I don't know how much.
I wouldn't bet it's gonna be like $6,000. That's
You
my
think so?
guess. Yeah, $5,000 or $6,000.
You're thinking optimistically,
No, that's my like.
rational guess.
No, yeah, kind of. If it's less, then that's great. But
Yeah.
I feel like even smaller displacement bikes aren't that cheap anymore.
Yeah, that's my thing. It's like
So my guess is like $5,000-$6,000.
okay.
Stay tuned to see what it is in a future episode.
You know what's funny is
We'll
I
have a
don't have like a guess to make on how much it's going to cost. But I got a feeling that that's not it. I think it's going to be higher. That's
you think it's gonna be higher?
I can't pinpoint, like it's definitely not going to be like 10,000 or 9,000.
No.
But I don't know where it's a new model. But Suzuki's never been like a super
crazy expensive.
overpriced thing. So we'll see.
Pay attention to in the future episodes, see which one of us is right, because I
Yep.
feel like we'll follow up on this.
Yeah, we will. We'll have to.
And then for our final bike in the news, we have something completely opposite of a small dual sport, and that is a very large adventure bike from KTM. It's the KTM 1390 Adventure S and the Adventure S Evo they came out with. So the Adventure S, the biggest thing, it has 2 USB-C ports.
It's nuts.
It has 2 USB-C ports.
How many
one
times?
up front,
Sorry,
and
I'll let you finish.
the other one's also up front if you want to plug in your GPS or navigation unit or other stuff into it.
Dude,
But
how
in
many
real
times?
talk-
How many times though have we like had like the tech on motorcycles conversation, especially lately?
So many times.
And like, but like now there's 2 USB-C ports. That actually excites me.
I mean,
Like,
I think I think that what wasn't the new BMW that we just saw last weekend
Mm-hmm.
in person that had like a standard USB port.
when it first
Right.
came out, I think is it still?
I think
Standard?
so.
Oh,
I don't remember. But anyways, it's just one of those dumb little running jokes we have,
Yeah.
especially I have on this podcast, because it's the new port. You should just put that in versus the old USB
yeah.
A port.
And they're giving KTM's
And they have
just like-
2.
Yeah.
They're giving 2. That's why they're going bankrupt.
That's why they're cutting back on spending. It's like we got
But the whole bike is pretty much redesigned, especially in the front end, for better comfort and ergonomics. They redesigned the headlight shape. They moved some stuff around to make it easier to either reach stuff or store stuff, like the little cubby for your like phone storage is a little bit bigger, and or just storage in general. What I thought was cool is they have a toolkit included on the KTM. It is packed under the seat in a little specialized toolbox. So that's kind of cool.
They're like, we know it's gonna break. So
And the other fun fact that I saw in their press release was that they have 11 different seat variants for various riders. So you can really pick and choose what kind of seat best suits your riding style or comfort level. So I thought that was kind of cool. But overall, this is, I mean, kind of on par there with all the tech and features you expect from a large displacement adventure bike.
a very large
Yeah.
displacement.
Same-
Adventure bike.
Similar kind of features are found across the BMW R1300 GS, the Ducati Multistrada, but basically you have your standard stock of semi-active suspension. You have different rider modes. You have cornering, ABS, all of the usual stuff. I won't go into super deep detail about what each of those things are, but the riding modes. There's sport, street, comfort, rain modes. Plus, you can add in an optional Suspension Pro package, which, since it does have semi-active suspension that's electronically controlled, there's Pro, Anti-Dive, Auto, and Off-Road modes that you can add into that as well. So those are optional, but KTM, I feel like, is pretty well known for being like the best performing off-road adventure bike, even on their bigger bikes. And part of the reason for that is because they really allow the rider to customize settings, their traction control level, their engine braking, their like all of those different parameters to kind of fine tune to what they need. And they keep those settings even after you restart the bike, which is really nice. And that's probably one of my biggest frustrations with my Triumph is that there's really not a whole lot going on.
Yeah.
That you can like switch off or change around.
Yeah. Like
which
for
is
ours.
a little annoying. Yeah.
Yeah. And even like turning the bike off, it takes it out of like off-road.
Yeah, it takes it up, and we have to stop to and put it into off-road mode, which is, I don't know why. That's a thing.
No, there's one nice thing that about KTM's.
Yeah, KTM, and then Ducati's the only other one I know that has that level of configurability for the rider, and then I absolutely love that they are still sticking with that. Like I said, the engine is a 1350cc engine with new camshaft technology, allowing 2 separate intake valve lifts depending on RPM range. This and the shorter and bigger throttle bodies kind of enable it to pump out more power, which is it's now at 173 horsepower and 107 pound-feet of torque. So this is it's a fast boy.
It's a big bike.
It's a big bike. I think it has a little bit less torque than the BMW. But definitely more horsepower. And the valve check interval is at 37,000 miles, which is right up there with the Multistrada.
Yeah, it's a little higher than the Multistrada, isn't it?
I think it's 1,000 miles more. I think the Multistrada is 36,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty awesome. That I love to see. The longer the valve check clearance is, the better, I think, because that's
the first thing I'm paying for with taxes. If I get a tax return, is my service interval.
It's a pretty hefty and expensive service. So it's nice that you can go longer. And since this bike is probably going to be, I didn't see the pricing on it in the press release, but I'm assuming it's going to be mid to high 20s.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have that on an already expensive bike that you're like paying for.
Plus, did you hear 2 USB-C ports?
Plus, it has 2 USB-C ports. Imagine all the possibilities you can have with that. Before I get into a little bit of so there's the other trim that's also available. But before I get into that, I'll go over more of the similarities between all of them. So there's an 8-inch TFT screen on this.
That's like an iPad mini.
It's massive. It isn't. Yeah.
That's huge.
It's huge. So an 8-inch vertically mounted TFT screen, and this kind of goes back to our technology rants and stuff. It's a big screen. I don't know if you need a screen that big on a motorcycle. Like I think my Triumph 7-inch.
It's not touchscreen.
I don't know if it's touchscreen or not. I didn't see anything about Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which is I'm like,
why is it that big?
You're gonna have that screen that big. You might as well put that on there. If Honda could put it into Africa Twin, here I go again. You can put it on this.
That's huge.
It is massive, and I'm like, so. My new car has like an 11-inch iPad in the middle of it, basically. Yeah. And I'm like, it doesn't need this. It's too much screen. I recently sat inside my boss's, or not my boss, but I sat inside one of the new Tacomas.
Oh, yeah.
And that car has a 14-inch screen slapped down in the middle of the dash. And if you haven't been in a new Tacoma, they're not that big inside. They're a mid-sized truck. Their interior is not like large and spacious, and that screen looks comically large on that car, in that truck. So it's like 14 inches in the car is massive. My car has an 11-inch touchscreen, and it's massive. I'm like, you can take out a whole bottom portion of it. I wouldn't care.
Yeah,
I wouldn't care. It's still the same function. A motorcycle, I don't know why it would need an 8-inch screen. That is a whole lot. Those numbers, that information it shows better be the crispiest, largest font I can ever see, because probably only older folks can afford this bike at this point.
And that's what I'm trying to think of is like what information could be displayed on that.
I'm very curious. Let me see if I can pull up to see if they have at least like an example.
Yeah.
Of what information it's showing.
Like, I mean, I hope it's not touchscreen, but I'm just wondering, like, why is it that big? What needs to be that big on a bike?
I honestly cannot tell you, but to me, it's just kind of bizarre. But one cool feature that it does have is that you can actually install or have offline maps on the TFT. So you can actually
that makes
download
sense. Okay.
maps onto it. So that way you don't have to sync it up to your phone. You don't have to use your phone's navigation.
Because it's downloaded.
Yeah, because it's stored on there, which I think is actually really cool. And to my brain, that's the only way I can justify having a screen that big so you can see more of the map. But I feel like on the motorcycle, it's nice to have a bunch of information on the screen, but there's a point where I feel like it can get too big. Even on my Tiger, I think it's too big of a screen.
Yeah.
And I feel like at one point does it become more of a distraction than actually, helpful.
Yeah. I'd have to, there's that mic bump again. But, what was it on it? It just looks.
It looks big.
It's an iPad mini.
Yeah. Look at just.
You have to put a picture up or something because that's just silly. But so, yeah,
it is. I feel like it kind of is tucked in there at least, so it doesn't look like
I was about to say
tacked on.
I was actually just about to say it till I saw the picture, but I was gonna say, wouldn't they be worried? Again, it's a big adventure bike. It's probably not going to be used as an off-road thing.
At least by
most people.
Yeah, no crazy off-roading.
Yeah, but for those that do, they talk about when it comes up, having the windshield hit you in the face or something. Man, you think that TFT would
just slam your face right into it,
right? But no, it is actually pretty well tucked in. I will say that about it.
So
okay,
but
interesting.
Still, that is a very large screen to have on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Way bigger than I think is necessary, but maybe if you see it in person. Here's a little graphic in person. So it looks like it does have a giant font, but then there's this sports graphic up here at the top, and this for our audio listeners, it's just the description. And is that really necessary? Maybe it's just for the sport mode that it's there, or just like that. I hope it just doesn't end up being kind of the complaint that I have about my bike screen is where I have this large screen that displays barely any additional information versus your screen.
Right. And how big is your screen again?
7 inches.
Jeez.
And it's already it's comically large.
Yeah. Silly.
So at least the offline map integration I think is cool. Can you pull that off on a smaller screen? Definitely.
Yeah.
It does also have radar and adaptive cruise control. It has a specific group riding mode, so the radar doesn't interfere with, or it doesn't think the riders near you in the group are, obstacles or something to watch out for, which I think is kind of interesting to have to point that out. And there's also various riding modes. I mentioned the suspension modes earlier. This is just the actual riding modes that obviously still affect the suspension, but there is rain, street, sport, off-road, rally, which is optional, and then custom 1, and also custom 2 and 3, which are also optional. Each mode, like I said, can also be fine-tuned by the rider, which is really awesome. And what I was really surprised is that the weight of it is 500 pounds wet. So that's
lighter than my bike, I think.
That is a very light weight for such a big bike.
I think that's lighter than my bike.
I think it might be lighter than your bike. I think it's pretty much the same as my bike. And I'm gonna double check on that real quick.
Yeah,
to make sure.
That's a huge bike, and it's light, and with all the fairings, and it's gonna be lighter than mine. But interesting. So, but yeah, that's
but we haven't talked about the auto manual on it yet.
Well, I was just gonna say it's just it's just coming with everything.
Yeah. It's pretty much has everything on it. And just like we've seen the recent trend with a lot of these big adventure bikes, is this one also has an option. It's a separate model. It's the S Evo.
Yeah.
The Adventure S Evo, or the Super Adventure S Evo, and that one has a automatic gearbox. So it's an auto manual gearbox, and it is something we've seen on a few bikes popping up now here and there. I mean, Honda's had some for a while, but this is a first from KTM, I believe, for them to have a manual box. And it is, I don't think it's 500 pounds. I think that may have been a different trim.
Okay.
It might have been the Super Adventure R, kind of like the Rally model.
Oh.
Anyways. Anywho, but yeah, it has an auto...
The AMT.
AMT, auto manual transmission, and basically it's an automatic. It's an automatic transmission. It has drive modes, park, neutral, drive.
That's one thing I saw on it that I was like very just like, that's kind of weird, where it goes like from park, neutral, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah. And
I like on my bike, my one down, and then neutral, 2 through 6.
So it's a little different, but you can still put it into manual mode if you want to shift it yourself. And what I thought was kind of interesting, it does have 3 different ways you can shift the gears. So you can use the foot lever like you would on a normal motorcycle. There is a finger paddle that you can finger on your left switch cube. And there's also, you can also downshift by overclosing the throttle. So I'm assuming that means you go blip down forward, kind of like you'd use to disable cruise control.
Yeah, but
you can downshift by doing that as well. So I thought it was kind of interesting that there's 3 different ways to do that.
Yeah.
The weight, I couldn't find an exact number, and I think the weight I had listed may be for the stripped down version, which we did not cover in this. So I'm just going to leave that off. I don't know the weight. It's probably going to be in the 500s somewhere, which makes sense.
Yeah.
The other thing is that it's not coming to US for the year 2025, but per Cycle World, it is coming to US in 2026. So
part of that downsizing there, KTM.
Maybe. But yeah,
interesting.
That's our news.
Yeah, I was gonna say one last thing about that bike is like, it is cool to see like they're packing a bunch of different stuff into it. Like I can definitely see like, having 11 different seat variants is going to be nice revenue. Selling like a part along the bike.
Definitely.
But when you got to the throttle and like the different ways to shift, that just seems like too many features for one task.
It's kind of a lot, and I'm curious. I think it's fine that there's motorcycles that are coming out with
and I'm big on that too. We've talked about that before. Is like there's reasons that some people wouldn't be able to operate a standard motorcycle.
Yeah,
but it just seems odd to like pack all of that into 3 different ways that you can do it on one bike.
Yeah, I think it's nice. I guess that there's different options on how you can shift. On that auto manual. Again, that's on the Evo S. Or the S Evo, the standard, the non-Evo Adventure S has a traditional manual gearbox, the clutch and everything, regular shifting pattern and stuff like that. It is one of those things, and it kind of brings like the top of, I think we've talked about it a few times before. It's like at one point, do things start to become too complicated, or
that was
overly complex for motorcycle, which traditionally has been kind of like a simpler machine versus like a car or something like that.
Yeah. Well, when we met or when we went to the BMW thing for the 1300 GS Adventure, the way Sean was describing like that their version of their automatic, I forget what, ASA assisted, or I forget what it was.
Shift assist or something.
Yeah, something like that. Where it says, you can like flip through the gears. You can still like, you still have a lot of control over what gear you're in if you have like that version of the bike. So I think that's great. But then but with this Evo, they're going to be like, you can do this, but you can also do it this way, but also this way, but don't hit this, because then you might. Yeah. I don't know. It just didn't really sit well.
I feel like it could definitely feel confusing at first.
Yeah.
One thing I do at least appreciate that both the BMW and this KTM here is that they still have a traditional foot lever. So I think that's going to help versus like certain bikes that are switching to or have the option for an automatic transmission, like the Africa Twin, for example. does not have the gear lever at all. It just has the top like up and down
Buttons.
little buttons
Yeah.
or triggers like on the handlebars.
Yeah.
Which I think it's nice that they're at least keeping this. So there's at least it makes it feel like a little more tactile.
Yeah. Could be.
But anyways, that's it for the news.
Yeah.
Anything else?
News-wise, no.
Okay.
So, actually, no, I take that back. MotoGP ended.
Oh, that's right.
It looks like Jorge Martin is the world champion for 2024.
All right. Good
I
job,
still have
Jorge.
not watched the race. I need to go back. Yeah, I need to go back and watch that still. So, but, that's just an example of having a busy schedule.
That is true. And if you do have a busy schedule, but you are looking for a motorcycle adventure, you can take a motorcycle adventure in Japan with our friends of the pod, sponsor of this episode, Shogun Motorbike Adventures. Are you stuck in traffic, tired of your daily commute? Are you dreaming instead of the open roads, stunning landscapes, ancient cultures, cold beer, and the adventure of a lifetime? Shogun Motorbike Adventures has you covered. Forget about rush hour, experience the rush of riding Mount Fuji instead. Introducing the Fuji Explorer Tour from Shogun Motorbike Adventures, an immersive journey through Japan's hidden gems, from the neon lights of Tokyo to ancient temples and traditional samurai villages, from mountain twisties to coastal highways and the iconic peak of Mount Fuji.
The guys at Shogun Motorbike Adventures take care of everything from a wide selection of bikes to cozy accommodations, traditional Japanese cuisine, cultural experiences, expert guides, and a support vehicle to carry your luggage. Ditch your daily commute and pack your sense of adventure to join Shogun for the ride of a lifetime. Head to shogunmotorbikesadventures.com and book your spot on the Fuji Explorer Tour today. Listeners of the podcast get an exclusive discount promo code 2dudes15. So we'll help you out there. Adventure is calling, and it's way cooler than your 9-to-5 ride. Explore and immerse in Japan with Shogun Motorbike Adventures.
Thank you, Shogun, so much for sponsoring this episode. All right, back to our topic, or to the topic after the news went on for most of the episode.
Yeah.
It was more of a news recap than...
That ad just made me want to ride my bike and get some good sushi.
Dude, that sounds amazing. That sounds so amazing.
I'm feeling the winter blues, not being able to ride.
But yeah, there's different types of riders, and I feel like, sometimes life just gets busy. We have other obligations, relationships, friends, other hobbies that we want to participate in, and we don't always get to ride our bikes. And sometimes it feels a little weird because you're like, okay, so I bought this thing, I paid for it, I should be using it more. Yeah. And I think we talked about this even before starting this episode. Like over time, it feels like, I haven't ridden as much this year as I did last year or the year before, and it feels like it's a very common trend.
Yeah,
like every summer, and it feels weird because I feel like this summer, at least to me, feels like it just disappeared. Like it feels to me like July was like 2 weeks ago, even though it was literally 3 months ago.
It still feels like we just got back from our California trip.
It literally does. And for whatever reason, it just felt crazy. And I think I mentioned on this podcast, like I got sick shortly after our trip and I could not ride.
Yeah.
I could not ride I got COVID.
I got injured.
Yeah. I could not ride for probably like a good month. Like I just felt out of it. I had brain fog. I felt like definitely not in the riding mindset. You hurt your knee, which
then I got COVID.
Then you also got COVID. I hurt my knee after getting COVID, not as bad as you. But there's just been like these weird layers of setback, especially coming in towards the end of summer, and then to fall.
Yeah, and like for me, since I started riding in 2020, this is probably the year I've ridden the least.
I feel like,
actually, I think the trip kind of balanced it out.
Yeah, the trip was a lot of riding, but like weekend wise, I feel like I have also ridden a lot less, and it's not basically because like
we didn't even do that many like day rides this year.
Not too many, and there's not really anything that like held me back from riding specifically.
Besides sickness.
Besides sickness, like other than sick and injury.
Yep.
It was more of like there's other things that I also wanted to do, and I only have 2 days off, and sometimes I'm like, I do want to go ride my bike, but especially with a lot of us, we'll end up riding our bikes, and it's pretty much a whole day affair. We'll ride to one spot, then we go to the other, or we do like a big loop, we'll grab some food, and then we go home, and by that time it's already like pretty much nighttime, 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And I only have 2 weekend days to do stuff.
Right.
And then my next day will pretty much be, running errands, laundry, cleaning some stuff, probably clean the bike, prep stuff for like next week and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden I didn't have time to really do anything else. And not that motorcycling isn't fun. In fact, it's a blast, and I'm totally happy dedicating an entire day to it.
Yeah.
But sometimes I do have days where I was really busy with work, or I had like just a lot going on, and I simply do not like. I'll go for like a short ride on my own, maybe like 1 to 2 hours max.
Yeah.
But not an all day ride, and then I try to focus on another hobby or run some errands, before or after the ride.
Yeah.
Hence making it short.
Well, yeah, and like it's like you said at the beginning, we've been riding like almost 5 years now.
Yeah, it's gonna be 5 years in May.
But we've changed since then, since we started riding. We got new jobs, we have new responsibilities. And this doesn't really pertain to us, but if you've started a family or you moved, there's everyone's gonna have a reason why their schedule's too busy.
Yeah,
and they're legitimate reasons.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed for me on it is, like, at the very least, on the positive side, I can say, like, when I do get out and ride, it has more of like that relaxing, unwinding effect.
Yeah.
Like when I'm done with the ride, it's just like, oh man, I need to ride more.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
But it means more. It's like, does that make sense? It's more
rewarding.
More rewarding by doing it less.
Yeah, I get that. And I do feel the same way, but
I sound like an addict just saying that.
And when I do it like pretty much every single weekend, and then I'm kind of neglecting or not doing other hobbies and stuff, I get to a point where I start to feel like, yes, I'm out on the ride, but I'm also having fun. But in the back of my head, I'm constantly like, I'm going to get home, I'm going to be too tired to do anything else. And then tomorrow I'm going to have to like do all these different errands and kind of try to catch up on, menial tasks and things like that. And then I like, well, I did go on the ride, but I also wanted to do X, Y, and Z this weekend, and I didn't get to do those things.
Yeah. So have you thought then about like what you're going to do come next riding season? Like, are you okay with the way things are going, or do you want to dedicate more time?
Honestly, I haven't thought of it. I'm just playing it by ear.
Okay.
I know sometimes, you or friend Emerson, he'll hit us up like, hey, guys, want to go for a ride and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, I'll sometimes not show up. I'll say like, sorry, I can't make it this weekend because, and it's not that I don't want to ride with, friends or anyone else, but sometimes I just want to do other things and I still want to ride, but I'll go on like a quick, well, maybe hour to 2 hour ride just around where I live.
Yeah.
Instead of doing like a full day ride. And then I kind of feel guilty because I said, no, I'm not going to come ride this weekend. And then I go on the ride and then I'm like, well, I don't want to go do a long ride. I just wanted to do like a nice quick loop somewhere and then move on with other things.
And for you, that makes sense because you do live like kind of far from me and Emerson.
Yeah.
Where, he's like maybe 10, 15 minutes from me. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do live like 45 minutes from here. So
yeah,
it's I got to really dedicate a lot of time to come and ride down here, which is if it's like a last minute decision or more of like a day before thing, it's less likely that I'll come down here to ride, mainly because I already have other things that I'm planning on doing. Okay.
So riding on that tight schedule though.
But for next year,
honestly,
I think I'm just going to keep playing it by ear.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I want to, I don't not like a New Year's resolution thing. I think that's dumb. But just to like come next season, like I do want to focus on dedicating more time, pending injuries. So
Yeah.
I really hope I'm done injuring my knee, the same knee over
Yeah.
and over. So, but to think about like what that means is like I'm gonna have to like tell like friends or family or girlfriend or whichever, whatever I've got going on, just like can't do it. I'm going on a ride,
Yeah. Yeah. That's understandable.
But I think like what's shifted in my, because again I used to ride like every day,
Yeah.
and I think most new riders do.
100%.
Some old riders ride every day.
Yeah.
Good for you. I'm jealous. But like for me, it's like one, I work from home. I work remote.
Yeah.
And then I tend to start getting like in my, it's just like, oh, I'm in my walls. I'm good.
Yeah.
It's like, but I want to go ride. But then I work up the gumption and I have time in my schedule to go ride. And it's like, well, where do I ride? I've ridden. I rode every day starting out in my area. Like, where do I ride now?
That's kind of like my other thing is like, we've had so many of the similar roads, so many of different places. Haven't had touched as many off roads, so there's that option. Sometimes I don't really want to go off road. I just want a nice cruise on tarmac because it's easy. And
I want to try off roading again, but I gotta again the knee problems.
Yeah,
we'll see if I can fit physical therapy into a busy schedule as well.
And but sometimes I just want to kind of a more chill cruise where I don't have to really be thinking about like the more technical aspects.
Yeah.
And we do have lots of roads for that here in Utah, but I think me and you both have ridden a good chunk of them in this like Salt Lake, Wasatch Front area.
Yeah.
Like a very good chunk of them. And I'm kind of like, well, I've already ridden there. But then I'll see some new road. I'm like, that's like 2 hours away. So in order to get there, I still have to I have to leave at this certain time, get there, ride that road.
Yeah.
Try to head back before a certain time. So I'm not getting home at like midnight or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not the biggest fan of riding at night. So
it's not my favorite, especially when I forget to swap out visors since I don't have a transition one. But yeah, I do think that's just kind of normal though as time goes on.
I think so too.
Is that you just start riding less? Like what?
I think it's kind of similar to any other hobby, basically. Like if you follow me on Instagram, you know me personally. Like I love photography and stuff, but it's been a while since I've actually gone and taken a photo just for myself. I do it for work all the time.
Yeah.
But just for me, like I haven't gone out to take a photo in a while. Like last time I did was back when that comet was floating around back in like October.
Oh, yeah.
And that was it. And I still haven't even edited that photo. It's still just like sitting there. So I feel like it's kind of similar with motorcycling that as someone, at least for me, as someone who has a billion hobbies that I'm like, and anytime someone tries to introduce me to something new, I'm like, I can't. I can't. I don't have enough brain space to fit another like thing to know about.
Yeah.
When it comes to hobbies, at least.
I tried to get you into magic.
And I refuse because I don't have the brain capacity to do it. But like with photography and then like hiking, I've only gone like 3 hikes last summer, even though I used to do that a lot more.
Yeah.
I haven't taken out so many pictures, and then I haven't, ridden on my motorcycle as much, barring the week-long trip that we did take. That was a lot of riding.
That was a lot of riding.
But like a lot of my hobbies, like slowly things kind of dwindle back and forth. And I think it's more, I don't think it's anything to feel bad or guilty about. I think it's kind of just a natural progression of like your interests and your hobbies over time as you kind of, grow and try out new things, try out new hobbies. And then certain hobbies kind of, take a back seat for a minute and then they resurge and they take a back seat. I think it's just kind of a flow.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's anything specific that needs to be fixed or that needs fixing. I think it's something that just kind of naturally happens. What I think though is what I would argue is worse is that if you constantly force yourself
Mm-hmm.
to enjoy something, even if you're like, I need a break from this, but so and so asked me to go on a ride, so asked me. This is for any hobby. So and so asked me to go for a ride. Okay, I feel bad if I say no. I want to go, but then the whole ride, you're like kind of stressing your tense about like, all the other stuff you have to do or wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's more of a negative, really, because I feel like when riding, I want to be like fully present in the ride. And, they say like, you need to be paying attention. You need to have your head on the swivel. You need to be doing all this and that. And I don't want to have other things distracting me in my brain if I'm out on my motorcycle.
Yeah.
I would rather be focused all on the ride. So I think it's not necessarily like a big safety thing, because I don't think like, you're still probably going to stay safe.
Yeah.
But it's nice when you have a truly clear head
No,
on the ride.
Yeah. And on that, I definitely agree. I agree with most of what you said. But what I keep coming back to in my head is like, I just have like this fear of like, I don't want to become the guy who's like, oh, I used to have a bike, but I sold it because I stopped riding.
I don't think you'll become that guy.
I don't think I will either.
Yeah,
but it's
you're definitely gonna keep your bike. I'm definitely gonna keep my bike or a bike in the future.
Well, or like there's like the version of that guy too who did keep his bike, but he doesn't ride it, and this thing just sitting collecting dust and doesn't start and fell into disrepair.
I don't think that's gonna be any of us.
I don't think so either. But like if I would say like if somebody else does feel like if they're afraid of that, I think. Well, how do I word it? Okay, yeah. So I agree with what you said about being present in the ride, wanting to actually like, get out and activate it. But I think like any other hobby or self-care routine, because I think motorcycle riding is a hobby, but I think it is self-care too.
Pretty much for us riders, definitely.
So I think on a busy schedule, it should be said, that we have to like dedicate and nurture some of that time to put into it, which I feel like personally I've neglected.
Yeah.
But I did miss a lot of riding this year too.
I think it's also like, this is like full on mental health section of the episode, which we're both big advocates of. I think it's also like another big thing is kind of like going back to the hobbies is that, I feel like, do you ever feel like you have this kind of like push and pull? Like you want to do your thing, but then, somebody asks you like, oh, we need to do this, or we need to do this, or can you do this for me? Can you help me out with this day? Or, oh, there's this work thing going on. And you're constantly feel like you're being like tugged in different directions and don't really have time to do things that you actually want to do. And then you feel stressed that you didn't get to do what you wanted to do. Or like, then next weekend it like repeats itself again.
Yeah. Well, it's like that's the weekend whiplash. You're being pulled in all these directions throughout the week. And then you get a day off and you're just like, I'm doing nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Or even on the weekend where you have like this thing on the schedule, that thing on the schedule, this and this and that. And then you're constantly like, instead of enjoying the day, you're more like, even if there is like a motorcycle ride that we're doing, like, all of us have had something where it's like, yeah, I can go on the ride today, but I got to be done by this certain point because I have this thing to get to in the evening or by this time and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, I went on the ride and it was fun, but it wasn't like I didn't feel fulfilled enough because I had this other obligation that I had to like make sure I make it too.
Yeah.
Like the best, like I felt so amazing when we did our California trip because that was all about riding. There was no like time constraint. There was no like other plans or anything like that. There was the rides and that was it. And it's hard to get that same feeling doing like little weekend rides, especially when you have other stuff to do. And then over the course of the weekend or week, when you have things constantly tugging at you, whether it's work or personal life, and then like you said, that weekend whiplash, when the weekend rolls around, you're like, I just need a day to do my thing. Yeah. And this is the piece of advice I'll give to the audience is that I think it's very important to have a you day. I call them my glove days, and that's what I'll tell my friends is if someone's asking me to do something and then it's on a day, like I will dedicate Like I will plan a day out of a month, maybe like 6 weeks or so, where I call it a glub day, where I'm not making any plans with anyone. I'm not making any obligations with anyone. It's just a day for me to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it ends up with me like waking up a little bit later, having a nice breakfast, maybe watching a show or something in the morning. And then, a couple hours goes by and I'm like, I kind of want to go do something. I feel like a little bit more relaxed. I feel like I don't have any other plans. I kind of want to go do something, and I'll go on like a quick motorcycle ride, or I'll go on a hike, or I'll go on like a run or something like that. But the big thing is that you don't have to sit at home all day. The big thing is like you're doing something you want to do without like planning for it, or without like an expectation of you doing that thing.
Yeah.
And to me, at least for me personally, and everyone's mental health or how they cope with things is different, but that's one of the things that I've learned to do that really helps me, is just dedicate a day every month or every 6 weeks to just being a me day, where I don't make any plans with anyone. I don't plan on going anywhere. I just wake up and kind of go do the day as I go. Sometimes the entire day just is me just watching TV or playing video games. And then other times I'll go on like an 8-mile hike because that's what I felt like doing that day. And then I feel good. And I feel a lot more recharged and rewarded that day versus having being tugged back and forth.
Right.
So that's my advice. Plan a day for just you to do what you want to do without any like prior obligations. And if you need to tell and I feel like a lot of this stuff, like if people close to you or good people, I feel like they'll understand, and they should understand. And if someone gives you grief about it, well, then they suck, and they should understand that it's important to have days that maybe are for you.
Maybe they don't suck. Maybe you just need to tell them.
You just need to tell them.
This is what I need.
Yeah, this is what I need to, feel better. And I think it even goes even if you're married or in a relationship or, have kids, I'm assuming it's going to be a little tricky if you do have kids.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I can't give advice on how that would work.
I have no idea what that life is like. So.
I have no children. I have no siblings. I don't know anything. But if you have a spouse, if you have a partner, if you're in a relationship, all of those kinds of things, if your partner loves you and knows you and understands you, I think they will understand if you're like, hey, can I just have this day to not do anything? And then maybe that just involves you going on a solo ride. Mm-hmm. I also like solo rides sometimes because I just want to go on my own pace, stop to take some photos, grab some coffee without feeling like anyone's waiting for me or that I have to wait for anyone else.
Yeah.
So that's my bit of advice. Okay. I guess it's sort of managing time.
No,
writing
it
time
is
on the busy schedule, but I think it's important to also remember that not everything needs to be scheduled or structured, and also to make sure to leave enough room for things you want to do, versus things you feel like you have to do.
No, I get it, and to add to that, my mindset on it, with self-care and stuff, is life gets stressful, whatever. Everyone's got their own stuff going on, but as I've become more aware and more involved, with mental health, including my own mental health, is when I realized something, I needed to be better about realizing when something is good for me, like motorcycling, mm-hmm. I just with myself, as I know I need to prioritize it.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, I won't.
Because it's something you love to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's very important to prioritize the things that you like to do,
mm-hmm.
and make sure the people around you also understand that's hey, I know or for example, I'll give an example, maybe your wife or someone asks you to, or husband, female riders exist.
Yep.
Asks oh, hey, I wanted to go grab breakfast with John and Sue next weekend. We'll go do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to understand that well, hey, I actually wanted to go and do a ride that weekend because I've been busy and I kind of really want to do that. It's important to communicate that, and also, communicate it to the other person, and also, hopefully they understand that's oh yeah, that's fine. I'll just go do it myself, or
I think it'd just be, look at us, a couple like relationship counselors, but you know, we're definitely not.
It's for our spin-off show, Two Dudes After Dark. Stay tuned. Just kidding.
But you know, like, we're definitely not. But you know, whether you're single, you're in some sort of a relationship, you got family obligations, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, like part of your own mental health is, you know, rallying for yourself a little bit and just be like, hey, like I need to do this, and you know, maybe you can't do it every week. That's fine.
You can't. No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, so yeah, but
make time for it.
Yeah, make time for you. And if you involves, well, you're listening to this show, so I'm assuming that involves motorcycling for you. But set some time aside for you and your bike. I'm going to try and be better about it this next season. Cause like, again, I put my bike away last weekend and I am feeling it hard.
Slightly off topic, but on topic. If you have any suggestions for hobbies for Mitch to pick up on in the winter months, feel free to send them our way. He does not like snow. He does not like the cold. He does not care for snowboarding or skiing.
I already play games.
He already plays games. He plays Magic and D&D. Please suggest him something that gets him out of the house to go do a hobby.
I don't want to leave the house. That's the problem.
Well, you need something to balance out not motorcycling in the winter.
It's cold.
Wear warmer clothes. Someone buy Mitch a snowmobile.
No. I don't want him to take care of one of those things.
That's true. Never mind. Don't do that. Suggest some hobbies for Mitch to do.
Do it if you hate me, I guess.
Suggest some hobbies for Mitch that don't involve being out into cold too long, or something that is semi-fun that's not... Maybe you should pick up pickleball like every other white person.
You should, huh? Well, you know, and that's...
Don't hurt your knee, though.
Actually, that just reminded me of something I thought about earlier today when prepping for this episode. You know, we play games, we like movies and shows and stuff like that, but it's like those can only get you so far in like
absolutely,
taking time off, you know, so it's like I can't just play video games all winter.
Yeah. Like, you know me, I'm not a homebody.
Yeah.
I don't sit at home very well. I need that one day every month to 6 weeks to sit at home, and even then I end up leaving the house most of the time. For winter I have snowboarding. That's my outlet. And I think it's important to also, like in the winter months or in months that you can't ride depending on where you live, to also find a different outlet to kind of, you know, help you get through the colder months, through the non-riding months. Yeah. And it's tricky to do because, you know, once again, picking up new hobbies, it takes time and money to try out. So it can be a little hard.
Yeah.
But I think that's all we had for the topic.
Yeah.
It's a full-on mental health episode. We should do more of these. I like this discussion.
Well, I think time management is a part of mental health, you know, so it's true. Like, you know, it's just set one, even if it's like one day every 2 weeks, if that's all you got, commit something to yourself.
Yeah. Set it aside for writing or for hobbies in general.
Yeah. But you're listening to this show, so you're probably looking for writing. Yeah.
But anyways, I don't think I have anything else to add.
No, I don't think we mentioned, we did get an email almost a month ago.
Oh, no, I don't.
And we responded, but this individual only left their name as Plate of Cheese. Hello to my favorite podcast host. Just wanted to say how much I love listening to you guys on my way to college every day. As an 18-year-old, I'm hoping to buy my first motorcycle within a few years when I move out. You guys never fail to make me laugh. Also, just going to rub it in that I live in Arizona, where it's still in the 90s in November.
That's absolutely insane.
Sorry, Mitch. Anyways, keep up the good work. Yeah. So thanks, Plate of Cheese.
Thank you so much. We love hearing your guys' comments.
So sorry it took so long to reply. I think like the last 2 episodes like that we've done since this one.
Yeah.
I just kept forgetting.
Yeah, it's a lot. And we're...
So I apologize for that, but we appreciate you.
9 to 5 jobs too that take up a lot of time and energy. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. Hope if you're listening in the US, hope you had a good Thanksgiving. And you know, ride safe if you can still ride, or if you're hunkering down for winter like we are.
Good luck.
Let us know in an email what your outlets are, so this guy can figure out what else he can do in the winter. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you in the next episode.
See ya.
Goodbye.
Sweet.